we are Christians who want to do the right thing. It's sort of a foregone conclusion. Like, we are not going to do things that are shady or spammy or scam or clickbait. Like, we don't go down that path because it's just not who we are. It's not who we want to be in the market, or it's not our company. The people we have that work at Tithely love what they do. They love the fact that we're serving churches. Oftentimes they're volunteering in their own local church. So it's just kind of in the DNA to do the right thing. It doesn't mean we're perfect. It just means that we kind of default towards doing the right thing.
Welcome back to the Honest Marketing Podcast, where you learn proven strategies to grow your business without selling your soul. I'm your host, Travis Albritton, and today on the podcast, we have one of the co-founders of Tithely, Frank Berry. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about early marketing strategies that helped Tithely get off the ground, Tithely being one of the larger church and nonprofit donation management software companies. We're going to talk about how Frank specifically stays connected to his customers, even though he's in a leadership position, COO of the company, but still taking time to connect with the people they're serving, to stay in touch with their needs and the problems that they're facing, so that as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as someone who is removed from the sales process, the front-facing sales process, still having that connective tissue, he shares some of the things that he does to stay connected in that way. And then also some really creative ways that they were able to save money as they were growing the business, as they were growing the company, because with marketing, you can spend money on all kinds of stuff, but not everything works. And so you'll hear him share some really unique things that they were able to do in order to not just grow the company, but do it profitably. Now, make sure you stay tuned to the very end of the interview, where I share my number one practical takeaway from my conversation with Frank. But without further ado, let's dive in. So tell me, in 5 minutes or less, who is Tithely? Who do you serve? And what is it that you do?
Amazing. 5 minutes or less. I think I can go less.
Yeah, maybe 60 seconds. Maybe I set the bar too high.
Tithely, yeah. So Tithely is a software company. We make software specifically for churches and ministries. We do have some other nonprofits and charities and whatnot that use us, but real specifically focus on churches and ministries. We serve churches and ministries all over the world. We have nearly 40,000 customers of all shapes and sizes, from the startup church, the brand new church that's got 10 people in a garage that's kind of has big dreams, all the way up to the big mega church that's got 20,000 people meeting on a Sunday. And specifically, we started out with making a product that let you give to your church, right? Like make churches for, I don't know, your audience may or may not know, but in churches, usually every weekend, there's like an offering moment. There's a time during the church service where people are going to give financially to support the work of the church and kind of do good in the community and all those kinds of things. And traditionally, you take a plate or a basket or something like that, you pass it around. And so we were like, you know what, that should be done on a mobile phone, because things like Starbucks and Amazon and Uber and everything else exists. You should be able to give to your church on your mobile phone. So we started off with a real simple giving app. And then we've added a bunch of features over the years. We do full church CRM systems and websites and church apps and email and text communications, really striving to be kind of the world leader in church software at price points that every church can afford, with really good service. Like in the church, you want to deal with real humans. And so we try to have a real human touch to our business and kind of care for our customers in ways that resonate with them.
And so when was Tithely started? Like, what was the year? Because that'll also help set some context for kind of what else was going on in the world of tech at that time.
Yeah, 2015 is when we kind of incorporated and officially launched the company publicly. There was a little bit of time before that where Dean, our CEO, he's the one that had the idea. He's like, you should be able to give on your phone, kind of like you buy us coffee at Starbucks. And his son, Barn's an engineer, so Barn went off and kind of built it. And then we had just some kind of friends and pastor friend churches using it and whatnot. So that was a little bit prior to 2015, but it was June or July of 15 when we finished incorporating the company and kind of publicly said, all right, let's get after this. So middle of 15 was the real launch date.
And so what did that early beta feedback look like when because I imagine you all are you have different jobs. You're working at other companies. Some are in
Yeah.
ministry. Some are working kind of in the secular world. Like, what did those early years look like when you're shaping the product and trying to find like the product market fit that's going to help set you up for long-term success?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There was four of us that got it going, and we were all doing other things at the same time and trying to figure this out. I think one of the early days, either Dean or myself, depending on kind of time of day and work schedules and all that kind of stuff, would be on the phone with a new customer. So someone would find us online, and we can get into that at some point, but we focused heavily on kind of an inbound, find the solution, go to the website, sign up for the product, don't talk to a person kind of approach. But our I don't know if it was secret sauce or just kind of our approach was actually that we did want to talk to you. We wanted to make it easy for you to sign up and start using the software. But then simultaneously, we wanted to get you on, at the time, a Google Hangout. And, I wanted to, now we would spend time on the phone too, but preferably I could get you on video like this. This was pre-COVID, right? So this is before everybody was using Zoom. This was still, I wouldn't say early days of video conferencing, but it wasn't mainstream by any means. But, again, it goes back to our kind of real human approach, right? If I could get you on a Google Hangout and we could interact like this, and you could see my face, and you might see one of my kids running around. We could talk about, our churches and ministry, and it just added this human component that we enjoyed a lot. It was kind of part of our DNA. And I think that the early customers, and even to this day, also enjoy, because you kind of get to put a face with the company, and you don't just sign up online. So we made it really easy to come to us and sign up on the website and start using it to take donations immediately. So frictionless and easy sign up and all that were kind of part of our core DNA, but also just that human touch where we could talk to you and help you get to know whatever you needed to about the product and us as a company.
So when you say that you were relying on inbound to really kind of put yourself out there and then start attracting prospects to become people that you could serve, what were some of the things that you were doing? Was it blog? Was it SEO optimization? Were you doing any paid traffic at the time? Like, what were some of the things you were pulling at to get that first 100, first 1,000 customers in the door? Because that's always the hardest. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know,
Big
hey,
time.
we're going to throw this thing out there and may crash and burn, or it might be the thing that like takes off. So what were some of the things that you were doing at the very beginning when you were first getting traction, just to really start building momentum?
Yeah. I mean, one piece that might just be good context for people listening, right? Are the church in America alone is about 300 and some odd, right? 310, 315, 320,000 churches in the US. And then there's churches all over the world. So it's even far bigger than that. But that alone is a pretty big like marketplace if you're thinking the business side of this. So there's a lot of them out there, and they all need software, some form of software, and they're all taking donations. At that in 2015, they were all cash and check is the primary way that you would give to your church. So it was sort of built in, right? Pretty big market, customer doing something in a little bit of an older way that was still existing in the church as it existed in other places, right? We probably all remember the day, or at least some folks will remember the day that you'd go to the grocery store and somebody in front of you would be paying with a check, right? It doesn't happen anymore. Or at least I haven't seen it in a long time. People don't even go to the grocery store anymore. They just use Instacart and whatnot. But like, if you go to the grocery store, people aren't using checks anymore. They're using usually their debit card or something like that. So, the church was bound to go through that kind of digital transformation at some point and become more digitally savvy and using not just for giving, but for all kinds of things, CRM and member management and apps and better websites and using email and text communication and all these different things, online accounting software, like all this stuff was bound to happen. So that's just a little bit of like groundwork for, we entered the market and we had, early kind of friends, right? Like my church and other churches that I was associated with starting to use it, Dean's church, Barnes church, Steve's, like we just started getting friends to use it. So that was one way. There's a little bit of word of mouth built into that. And then from a marketing perspective, beyond just the word of mouth, it was just all inbound. So I have a little bit of a marketing background and kind of was a believer in the whole like inbound marketing style. And so really from day one, we wrote, it, if we could, it was at least one blog post a week. If I could crank out two or three, we would, right? And then we had our newsletter. So it was a blog post or two or three a week. And then it was a weekly newsletter. And then it was lots of guest posting, like finding, building relationships with anybody that we could that was also writing content for the church or, serving the church with a product or somehow, doing something online for the church, like building tons of relationships with people, getting to know the other people in the industry doing things to serve churches and, just kind of helping each other. And so I would do tons of guest writing and trying to get backlinks and all the SEO magic that you can think of, right? Like it was a daily thing of just SEO, 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 SEO. And writing content was kind of the pillar of that, even to this day, we still write 3 days a week. We do a podcast. We do our best to kind of produce content that our audience can really benefit from. And that just pays off with, like we get a lot of traffic to the website for all that.
Yeah, well, and there's something that you said that really just kind of stuck with me, which is like thinking about how you observed other industries innovating in specific ways, and then identified like an industry that was kind of lagging behind, but that would eventually catch on to that same trend. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. Like even when I think about disruptive industries, like Airbnb, right, disrupted the hotel industry.
Right.
But you could really see it coming. Like if you started to identify like, oh, Uber, people are starting to rent out their own cars. And
Right.
well, how long until that then trickles into all these other things, which, I imagine if you're in the VC world, you hear we're the Uber of X,
Of something,
right?
yes.
It's like
Yes.
we just happen to be in an industry that hasn't been disrupted yet. And so even just when you're at a product level, identifying like, okay, how do we kind of ensure success as much as possible, or how do we get as many chips on the table as we can, is seeing that same change happen in other places and spotting the similarities and the trends and then applying them in the industry that you're trying to change as well.
Right.
Were you doing that? Were you like looking at seeing like, okay, Starbucks is doing this. Is there a piece of that would work for churches or, like at that
I mean,
level?
that was the original. Yeah. We were not sitting around looking for the next thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it was definitely, the app store was out, apps were starting to become a thing. Starbucks had it where you could put your credit card in and buy the coffee and it was easy, right? So it was almost like it had happened and it sparked an idea. It just so happens that simultaneously, like the whole church industry, which isn't necessarily how we talk about it, but for sake of this conversation, right? Like the industry was behind, right? And so like the idea and the fact that the market like needed the idea were kind of like not necessarily like Dean was a pastor for a long time and I went to church for a long time, but like so we all gave with checks, and Dean was a pastor, so he actually led the church and sort of had behind the scenes insight into giving and the trends and how it worked and what would happen in the summers and what would happen when there was a rainstorm or an ice storm in Atlanta, or what would happen when it was Christmas and people were on vacation or traveling. Like, so you see what happens to giving, and then you're like, oh, but if you can do it right on your phone, you can kind of give anywhere, anytime. You don't have to be in church necessarily, or your local church. You don't have to remember your checkbook when you're scrambling to get the kids out of the house and get to church. You don't have to remember that because you're not forgetting your phone. So yeah, I don't think nobody was sitting around. I think it was technology evolving, another app sparking the idea, and then just knowing it makes sense. At that point, it's like, well, yeah, people pass the plate. Eventually the plate's going to go away. It's still not gone. We've gone through COVID now at this point, and the plate is still there. People are still giving with cash and check. It's a smaller percentage, but it's still a big number. And, but eventually it'll go away. Right. So like spotting that trend, being really, really early. And then just being like, we're almost 8 years or seven, a little over 7 years into this. Like that's a good chunk of time, 7 years doing one thing, and we got plenty of room to keep going, So it's kind of longevity and persistence and staying with it, not giving up through the whole thing.
For sure. Well, and I'm curious, making the pivot from early stage startup, new company,
Yep.
getting traction, to then scaling the company, both internally with your team, the number of customers that you can serve, and
Yeah.
then like the marketing levers that open up to you once you start getting more revenue coming in. When did you start adding to that SEO kind of inbound focus, which still is at the core of what you do, right? But start getting into Google ads and Facebook ads and
We,
sponsoring conferences and things
yep.
like that. Like how did all of those things evolve from the growth that you're experiencing and what you were trying to do moving forward?
Yeah. And we actually, we started running Google ads actually really early. We didn't have a lot of money.
Sure.
So we couldn't spend a ton, but we did start doing that because that was also a little part of my just digital marketing background. So we definitely started doing that in the early days, and that's just like grown over time as you sort of understand your key metrics better and you know how much you can spend to acquire. Early days you don't really know any of that, and
Right.
you're just you're sort of like just praying for new customers any way you can get them, and you're doing whatever you can and you're trying everything you can. And so we actually would go to some events. We didn't have a lot of money, so it wasn't like we were paying a lot. And I remember I'd show up at an event, Dean would do the same thing, and we'd have like one of those like pop-up tables that they give you with like no tablecloth, like one little like stand up on the table, like pop-up banner,
Yep.
and like our laptop. Like it was that sad, right? And we would just do our thing. And nowadays we have a great booth and we look somewhat professional at a conference, and we pay for bigger sponsorship opportunities, where it makes sense. But I think early days we were really scrappy in the sense of, yeah, we wanted to get to some conferences, but how could I get there and not pay to be the biggest sponsor? Could I do a session? Could I do a dinner? Could I get coffee? What could I do that helped save money but still kind of got me around things? And how could I build relationships with the people doing the conference, that were not just about the conference, but maybe you're part of a network of churches. Maybe there's other things we can do that serves you guys well. So it makes sense to have us at your conference where we're not paying to be there. And, so we spent a lot of time building relationships and connecting with people and figuring out how to get around in the industry, and how, where should we spend our time? How can I do something on a budget and make it work? So we spent, we did a lot of that early on, Dean and I. And as we hired people, they had the same kind of DNA. And nowadays we generate more revenue, so we can spend a bit more on marketing. We actually have a marketing team of a handful of people, 6 or 7 people over there doing things, and it's still a fairly small team, but we have a team, and they can do more now because there's more of them doing it. So yeah, I'm not sure if that even answers your questions, but small and scrappy. We spent some money on stuff, not as much as we spend today. But I think it was good for us because we learned how to acquire customers. Like we serve really small. Again, I don't know the audience particularly well, but if you're in the business side, marketing side, like we're like an SMB inbound company, right? So we're like vertical software with payments. We serve like the SMB, the small to mid-size market really well. And you got to get good at acquisition and good at retention and all those kind of things in order for the business to work, because people don't pay us a lot of money. It's like volume and scale that make the business successful. So we had to learn how to do a lot of that early on. And look, some of it is whatever you want to call it, luck, or God was with us right along the journey. We didn't know everything. We didn't go into it with a formula. Like, we just did some things well, and I think we cared about our customers a lot, and I think that paid off.
Talk to me a little bit about retention, because I think that can often get lost in the world of marketing where everything is about growth, top end growth and
Yeah.
revenue growth. And, my favorite are the businesses that are like, hey, we hit 7 figures annual revenue, woohoo. And their burn rate's like 1.2 and they're two
Right.
months away from running out of cash, So,
Right.
the numbers that we can celebrate don't always paint the whole picture. But what were the things that you did beyond just caring about your customers to really try and help with retention, whether that's
Yeah.
support or being really responsive on the product side? Like what are some of the things that you really focused in on and said, wow, these are the make or break things for us in driving retention and really increasing that LTV to allow
Yeah.
you to spend more to acquire new customers?
Yeah. 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 I think the customer care part goes a long way. And I'll maybe two parts of how that played out is we really tried to onboard you well, right? And knowing a lot more today than we did then, like really, we just wanted to help. We wanted to get you on that Google Hangout call. We wanted to, beyond maybe the sales moment, we wanted to do the training. Let's answer your questions. Let me walk you through the tool. Our original product didn't take you long to get used to, but if I could spend 15 minutes with you and get you really ramped up and having all your questions answered and knowing how to use the tool. So the kind of early training and then helping you launch to your church, like giving you resources. We would make graphics and videos and email messages and content that would help you go communicate it to your church. We would prepackage it all and give it to you so that we could make it easier for you to go launch this new product into your church. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And some of it was terrible, but like we were giving you resources to try to help it make it easier for you to launch into your church now that you have this new product. So we wanted to onboard, train you well, give you resources, and then we just put a lot into support. We wanted support to, like we've sort of prided ourselves on having like phone support, like you can talk to a human, you know, like
It's a lost
a
art
lot of
form nowadays.
yeah, a lot of tech companies talking to a human. Now we've had to evolve how we do that over time because it costs a lot of money to hire and keep people answering phones and all that kind of stuff. So we still have that capability and we've had to evolve how we do it. But I think caring for our customers and that, okay, let me help train you. Let me help onboard you. Let me give you resources. Let me let you know you can call me to get help. Like all that kind of stuff massively helps with retention, and maybe isn't super scalable, but some of it is. Like if I can do training better with some pre-done videos now, and if I can give you these resources and make it get it to you easily from the beginning, and so you have access to those, and I can kind of automate a bunch of things that maybe we were doing manually before. Getting on the phone with somebody, well, I can have you schedule a call versus just calling straight in. Like I can have, I can schedule it and make sure I have people staffed at the certain times where I have more of my call. Like I can do a lot of stuff to scale, but still have that kind of, built in like customer centric, customer care kind of approach to it.
Yeah, and I think a mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make and business owners make, especially if they are more of the kind of visionary mindset of like, we're going to go take that mountain over there, is running everything through the filter of does it scale? And if the answer is no, immediately rejecting it. Like, well, that's not an idea that will serve us in 3 years, so why are we doing it now? But I think that's where the differentiation
We didn't even
happens.
think 3 years ahead,
Yeah.
so we didn't run into that problem.
Well, a 3-year business plan now is like, okay, well, how many crazy things can happen in the next 3 years? Have another global pandemic, a couple of world wars, like who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
3
Yeah.
years is an eternity. But I think I'm certain that was a key to you being able to grow Tidely to what it is now is having those unscalable moments where it's like
Yeah.
we are going to maintain a human connection and interaction with our customers, period. And that's just a part of the DNA of the company, no matter how big you get or no matter how big the team is. And then finding creative ways to leverage that time better without replacing it with, well, we're just going to outsource this to a call center, or we're going to replace it with an FAQ page. Like, so
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we have lots of FAQ pages now,
right.
and we try to use those. But Lane, that's part of growing up.
Yeah.
But to your point, those didn't replace and get rid of the human touch. They just hopefully make it better. Like sometimes people want to self-serve. They don't want to talk to a human. They want to read it and they want to keep it for later. And they'd rather a video where they can take their own time and watch through it. So people kind of like, you just get all kinds of people and you just support them in the ways that make sense for them. But some people still want to get on the phone or get on a Zoom and show them. We grew out of Google Hangouts. I'll say that much. Or what? I don't know if it's called Google Hangouts anymore.
I think it's Google Meet now, if it still exists.
Google Meet. Yeah, we outgrew those guys.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing being, somebody will probably say like, "Hey, let's hop on Zoom." Yeah, here's my Google Meet link.
Right.
It's become the new verb.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
because it used to be Skype. Remember, it used to be like, "Oh,
Right.
yeah, let's Skype," and now, nope, we're gonna Zoom it
I
up.
remember those days. Anytime someone tries to use Skype, it's been a long time, but I remember like, I don't even know my password and I can't get in anymore. Like, I don't even know how to do this meeting.
Yes, good times, good times. So I want to pivot a little bit to the specific market that you are reaching, churches, Christians, and how that can play well and butt against marketing best practices, right? Because the internet is full of things that work. Clickbait works, but having a certain ethical standard or a certain level of integrity with what strategies you choose to pursue and how you choose to implement them matters. And I imagine more so when, the people that work at your company are Christians, serving Christians. There's more in the relationship than just a transactional, I make a widget, you buy it, right? So talk to me about like what those conversations and discussions look like when you're considering new marketing strategies or how you're going to implement something to make sure it's consistent with that ethic, and how marketing is perceived just in the Christian world in general, which in my experience has been meet it with lots and lots of skepticism.
Yeah.
That's the default.
Right. Yeah. It's a good question. I've never really thought about it. I think some of that is just solved by the fact that we are Christians who want to do the right thing. Just automatic, like it's sort of a foregone conclusion. Like we are not going to do things that are shady or spammy or scam or clickbait. Like it's just not. It's not who we are. Like so, it doesn't even really cross our minds to do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So like I can't think of a moment where we were like, oh, let's try this crazy marketing thing that seems a little sketchy, but it really works. Like it just, I don't know if this is a good answer, right? But I guess a lot of it is like we don't go down that path because it's just not who we are. It's not who we want to be in the market, or it's not our company. The people we have that work at Tithely love what they do. They love the fact that we're serving churches. Oftentimes they're volunteering in their own local church. And so it's just kind of in the DNA to do the right thing. It doesn't mean we're perfect, so I don't want to come across that way. It just means that we kind of default towards doing the right thing and as best we can, So, yeah, I don't know if I have much beyond that, We just don't want to do spammy things. Even to the point like buying lists, right? Like buying an email list where you buy it from some other thing and you're going to send emails. Like that's a thing. I'm pretty sure we've never done that because it just feels icky. Like they didn't give you your email like to do anything with it. Now we've partnered with, a Christian publication to say, hey, let's run some ads on your website or to your email list to promote this Tithely thing where you're sort of paying for that marketing channel. But that's kind of normal marketing. Like you have an ad program. We're going to use your ad program to send people some info about what Tithely is or an event we're doing or a new product we're launching. So we'll do that often. We'll go to conferences and give away something like, hey, win an iPad, book a demo to learn more about Tithely and you're entered to win an iPad. So we'll do stuff like that at conferences. But hopefully none of that is shady or, sketchy to people. But I do think church, like at the church level, marketing has a weird connotation because I think a lot of churches or pastors don't think you need to market Jesus kind of thing or market the church. And, I get where they're coming from. I get what they're saying and I agree. I think, but maybe we just mean it differently, like I think a church does need to get exposure in the community and, have a reason for existing, and people should know why you're there and what you do and how you serve and who you are. And, like that's all marketing. That's all getting your name out, not your name, because you want to sort of be promoting Jesus, not yourself. But I don't know. I think it's just not understanding marketing a little bit or getting caught up on some of the things that feel icky about marketing versus going, no, I'm just trying to get my church known for good reasons in the community so that people know we're here and know they can come because we love everybody.
That's exactly what I expected you to say. To be totally honest, just on our relationship and knowing each other and working professionally together in the past. But it's not something to be taken for granted. Like, it's very easy when you're looking at data or looking at like conversion rates on a landing page, or how is this performing versus this, and over time iterating your way away from your core values, just like one small step at a time, until you're like, well, we finally made this profitable. We made some questionable choices along the way in order to justify X, Y, and Z. And so it's great that you've been able to maintain that core identity and still experience growth. Maybe not the kind of meteoric growth that would have been possible with some of those strategies, but really
Yeah, right.
building a company you're proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows, in our world, doing some of those shady things might have killed the growth.
Right.
You just don't know, right? I mean, we tend to think that people in the church want to deal with, people that are doing the right things and have, like I feel confident about Tidely's reputation. Not that we're perfect, but that we have a set of core values that are meaningful, and we try to hire people that share those, and we try to treat our customers, really, really well based on that, so we just try to do the right thing, and not shady things.
It's funny how that becomes a marketing strategy. Just be a good human.
Yeah, be a good human.
Just be a good human. It's funny how
that could
things
be a
work
good
out.
marketing book. That could be a good title for a marketing book.
That was almost the name of the podcast. It was going to be a riff on that. Before Honest Marketing, it was going to be marketing for humans, and so kind of like putting the human element back in performance marketing. But Honest kind of does that too.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Love it.
So I would love to kind of fast forward a little bit to the current present time frame, because now, we're 7 years removed from when you started. There are other companies doing digital giving. It's not a rare thing now. Most churches post-COVID have some sort of digital giving set up, and it's become, I don't want to call it a cottage industry, but there is an industry that has been born out of a need to go digital for the churches, for churches and Christians in general. So how do you continue to work on and refine the things that are working right now, while also looking forward towards the shifts that are going to happen in the future? Because it is easy. Like, once you discover something that works, you're like, okay, well, this is it. This is our gravy train. We're just going to ride this forever. 50 years from now, it's still going to be working. We're still going to be writing blog posts and trying to get organic SEO on Google, but likely that's not the case if we just look at like history and how things evolve.
You don't know what's going to happen.
So how do you balance that of like continuing to do the things that work and using that to kind of plan for the future and being able to, pay your team and afford investments and things like that? And then how do you also innovate forward, and how do you strike that balance so you don't lose what you have, but also don't put yourself in a vulnerable position in the future?
Right. Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, I think we'll keep doing the things that are working as long as they work, and I don't think Google's going away. I don't think Facebook's going away. I don't think Bing's going away. I don't, I like, things may evolve and look different, but I don't think they're going away. I don't know that search is going away, right? Like, so I think it will evolve for sure. Like, things will look different in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. Like, who knows? They might look different in 2 years, but so we'll keep doing those things, and we'll keep hopefully staying, we'll keep good marketers around that are paying attention to kind of what's working and how it's working and how to reach our audience, successfully wherever they may be. One thing that I don't think goes away is like reputation and brand and like word of mouth, and we're of a size at this point that keeping a great reputation, keeping a great brand, treating people well, doing the right thing, like serving our customers with excellence. Again, I say all this going, I don't think we're perfect, but I think these are things that we strive to do always. I think, like customers are still going to tell their friends, no matter what. Like churches are very connected, pastors are very connected. So I think if we keep doing that word of mouth scales tremendously. And I think, you can't be a one trick pony either. Like we started out in giving. If we just did giving today, maybe we don't exist or maybe we're not who we are, right? So I think you got to keep adding. Most software companies are going to go from the thing that they started with and they're going to expand, right? Look at, I don't know, look at Microsoft, look at Google, look at modern ones like Stripe or Intercom, or like pick a, really Atlassian, Basecamp, like pick somebody and you're going to see they do, a lot more than what they did when they started. Because you keep serving your industry, you keep serving your clients and figuring out, okay, well, I'm a provider that wants to serve my customer with great software at an affordable price and do great business with them. Well, what's next? What do they need now that I don't do today? And am I the right one to go build it or partner with somebody else or acquire something to offer it to them and put it together in a way that makes it better for them than it was without it, right? Like, so I don't know, churches still use sticky notes for things. Churches still use spreadsheets for things. Churches still run their membership on, Outlook. There's still all kinds of opportunities that you just have to keep paying attention to your customer and paying attention to what they're doing and where they could be served with better software, or where they're experiencing some kind of pain where it's just not enjoyable to do this particular thing, or there's not good software for something, that already exists. So you're just always paying attention, always. Like I love talking to customers, right? Like, and hopefully our company loves talking to customers. So we're just always talking to customers and watching what they're doing and listening to what they're saying. And hopefully that information keeps fueling us, right? What's the next thing we need to go do, to go build or to go buy or to go partner with in order to kind of provide an even better suite of software, because if you want to be the world's leading software provider for churches, you got to keep going, like there's a lot of software. They do a lot of things. So we could be building for years before we get to the end of that.
Indeed. Well, I'll leave a link to Tithely in the show notes. So if you're a church or if you're a pastor and you're looking for a donation software, full church CRM, all of that, definitely go check out Tithely. But I want to give you a special plug, or an opportunity to plug Modern Church Leader. Which is the show that you host.
Come on.
And talk to one, like how that show came about as a piece of content marketing for Tithely, but then also like how it has served you as someone in a leadership role at the company and building relationships, building connections, learning. Like, how has Modern Church Leader as a show also helped you stay connected with, the customers you're trying to serve?
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Modern Church Leader podcast, Tidely puts it on. I happen to host it. Modern Church Leader, it was born before COVID, and we were, I think, playing around with interviewing folks. But I would say that really when COVID hit, like COVID was crazy for everybody on the planet. In the church space, particular, the folks that we serve, every church was closed down. And church is a human experience. It's like you meet together in the building or in the park or in the garage or in the house. Like you meet together with people, and then churches were shut down. So I was like, man, what are pastors going through? And so that was like the kind of catalyst for Modern Church Leader and to like really go. And so really at the beginning, I was like Facebook Live, book a guest, and I would go live with somebody for half an hour, 40 minutes every single week for like, it must have gone on for over a year of just There was no format. There was nothing. It was literally just interviewing a pastor of any kind of church, small church, big church, whatever, like all types of, all shapes and sizes, going like, what's going on? How you doing? How are you pulling this church online thing off? What are you using for technology? How are your people? How are you staying engaged? How are you ministering to people? Like, what is it like for you and your part of the church? And just trying to share, right? And then have other pastors who are also going through that kind of see other guys talking about what they're going through, just be like this kind of sharing resource that hopefully somebody would have an idea that somebody else saw and they'd be like, oh, I'm going to try that, and like kind of spark ideas. So that's where it got kicked back up. And, I like talking to pastors and church leaders. I think that's another part of it, right? It's a great way to stay connected to our customers, to learn what they're thinking about, what keeps them up at night, what they're wrestling with, what they love, like, just really understand our customer. So I just enjoy talking to pastors and church leaders about what they're doing. And I've got to interview some, super high profile folks. And I've got to interview a ton of, pastors of the 50-member church on the corner of the small town doing church online from their iPhone, right? Like all kinds of cool stuff. So it's a great show. If you're a pastor or a church leader, go check it out. You can just go to YouTube, Modern Church Leader, you'll find it. And I'm sure there's hundreds of episodes by now.
I would say so. We've done our best, right?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
And you were a huge help in this latest iteration of kind of upgrading the whole experience. So if you need podcast help, Travis is your guy.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate the vote of confidence.
Yes.
For sure. Well, Frank, definitely appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on and sharing all the things you shared. And just thank you so much.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Good to be here.
So my number one takeaway from that conversation you just heard from Frank is do the things that don't scale. As entrepreneurs, as marketers, as business owners, it's easy to gravitate towards only considering the strategies that can scale beyond a one-to-one human interaction. But it's often those human interactions that can set your company, your business, apart from the others in your space, that you actually have somebody who will answer a phone call, that you have people on your team that will hop on Zoom calls, hop on Google Meet and Hangouts and actually connect with people on a human level, answering their questions and really helping them with your product and your service and really getting to know them. Do the things that don't scale, because at the end of the day, growth is only one side of the coin. Retention is the other. And it's often with retention that we can overlook that we can downplay its significance because you can always outgrow it. If you lose one customer, let's just go find two more. But if you can do those things that don't scale and really connect with your customers, the people you're trying to serve with your company at a human level, that makes a big difference in the profitability and longevity of your business. Now, if you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to Honest Marketing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if these episodes have been really helpful for you, it would be really great and helpful for me if you would consider leaving a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify to let other people know that this is a show worth listening to. And also, I love hearing from you and hearing your feedback and interaction. And so it'd be really fun to read those as well. Thanks for listening to the show. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be able to serve you in this way. And as always, be honest.